All right, gang, you missed the first little bit of the lecture because I forgot to start the recorder. That was a genius move on my part. So we created a new file and we did #include fstream. We are trying to repeat the stuff that we did last time and actually get it to work for every student. So we added that, and here's the code up here for creating our file. We don't need hello. I'm going to delete that. But we had to create an OF stream, an output file. We opened it. If the file is good, we print a happy message. Else, we print a bad message. Unable to save output file, pause, and return, and then close the file. So what did we do? We just wrote out the number 1 to it. That's all we did right there. Whoopsie. So here we go. Let's look at it again. I'll scroll down slowly. And that's the last bit of that code. All right, and then later on, file closed, hit enter, string S, get line S, just to let them hit the enter key. Same thing as a pause, right? And then read the file in. Use an IF stream. Open the same file name, which last time we saved as a string. If the file is good, we say yay, we opened it for input, and then we read it in using input greater than, just like when we wrote it out, we used output less than, just like reading from CIN and writing to cout. Same exact syntax. So down here, if the file is good, we read it and we say yay, we just read I equals, else it failed, and so we say could not open input file, system pause. Okay, so we're going to pause here. All right, so it's actually working for everybody.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So, what are we going to do now? Well, we could move this code, these things, to functions. Let's do that. What are we going to do now? It's going to involve a lot of cut and pasting, sorry. But we're going to make a function called bool space write underscore file, parentheses, and it's going to take a string as a parameter. So string space file name in parentheses. And let's not, I hate to make y'all type a lot, but let's not cut and paste. Let's instead try to recreate it. What do we need to write from a file? We need OF stream. Let's call it output again. It's voodoo. It worked for us one time. I'm going to go for it again. Output.open, parentheses, file name, into parentheses, semicolon. If output.good, parentheses, into parentheses. But this time we're going to see if it's false, if it's not good. So if output.good equals false, parentheses, we're going to print out a message, cout could not create, end quote, less than, file name, less than, ENDL, and then return false. The function is of type bool, so it needs a return true or a return false each way. And I made a typo here. What did I do wrong there? That's pretty silly.
What's that? T?
I just forgot my T. Yeah. All right. We handled that case. Let's keep on going then. The file is good, so let's write out a bunch of numbers to it. Let's write out 10,000 numbers like we did last time. For, parentheses, int x equals 0 or 1, why not? X, semicolon, x less than or equal to 10,000, 1 followed by 4 zeros, semicolon, x plus plus, and let's write out to our file. So output less than x less than ENDL, not END1. We're done with our file, so let's close it. Output dot close, parentheses in parentheses. Now there may be a flush command, and a flush command tells that you make sure everything is saved to the file right dang now. So I'm going to try it to see if it's there. Output dot flush. Maybe that was our problem last time. Output flush and output dot close. Now you shouldn't have to do that, but why not be thorough? I'm going to throw it in there anyways. Make sure everything is written now. Right. Don't wait until we close it. Just write it now. Flush it now. Flush it to disk is what it's calling. Not flush down the toilet. We don't want our data to disappear. Instead, flush it to disk. And then we can return a true. And then there's going to be a closing brace. If there's not one, it's a problem. So we need our close brace, and the next thing we see is int main, because we are at the end of our function.
Oh wait, we need to have a returning brace?
Well, we don't need a brace, but we have to have return true and then a closing brace. And that's right above int main. Now we're not typing in int main already. We already have that.
It's expecting a call.
All right. Let's call that function and see if it worked. So at the top of main, I'm going to add some new code. What did I call it? Write file? Yeah. Write underscore file, and let's give it a new name. Not output.txt this time. I'm not feeling clever. Output2.txt. End quote, in parentheses, semicolon. But we need to store its return value. So bool space, not book, bool space OK equals write file.
Oh wait, what? Oh no.
And then we just need to print an error message if it didn't work, right? So if parentheses exclamation point OK, that's an exclamation mark. It says if not OK. In other words, if OK is false, then cout could not write file \n end quote semicolon. And I'm going to put a curly brace here and a closed curly brace here so that I can do that pause and return 0 business again. So system parentheses quote pause end quote in parentheses semicolon return 0. Else it worked. Else cout less than data saved to file \n end quote semicolon. Cout less than hit enter to continue \n end quote semicolon, and then another system pause. But we're not going to return now. System parentheses quote pause end quote in parentheses semicolon. I'm going to run it just to make sure it works, and I'll bring the code back. Data saved to file, hit enter to continue. Data saved to another file, file closed, hit enter. All right, so my write file function seemed to work. Did anybody not get to type in write file from here all the way down to here. Did you not get to do that part? Do I need to leave this part on the screen? We all good? All right. Because we're going to write another one called read file.
Oh, that's nice. I didn't complete it. Didn't complete my...
Nathan, you didn't tell him that you haven't finished it yet.
Let's put a message here saying that we did actually close the file, or that we wrote the data and closed the file,
Hey,
right?
Professor?
Yes, sir.
I don't think Nate finished the top.
Ah, Nate. See, I asked. Well, I'm going to add these two statements and then I'll pause.
I didn't finish the...
Oh, the stuff underneath? That's okay. We'll scroll back to that point. So go back to write file, and at the bottom of it, above the return true, we're going to write data saved to space end quote less n file name less n endl. Just so we see something that makes us happy. We're pretty sure that it actually worked. All right, so the data was saved, output 2.txt, hit enter to continue, and then it does the rest of it. All right, so we need this part. I'll be right there. This is the stuff we just added to the top of main.
Output, excuse, sorry, hold on. It gets, ooh, this is different. What's going on? Okay, so.
Are you freaking kidding me, bro?
What's wrong, Tim?
Unexpected identifier. Oh, this better fix it.
Well, just run a breakpoint and see where it's at, like you did earlier.
Yeah, fixed it. Alright, so.
We'll
This
start
actually
with
is
return-
just
oh, not
variables,
return
so not
zero.
quotes or anything.
Oh, then you start with.
Otherwise, it'll create a file called file name. We open the folder, we'll see it called file name. We don't want that.
Alright, so yeah, less than. Da, 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 da.
So what has happened is I stole a lot of code from the first thing, put in the second, and it looks like I should not have done that so much. So for now, we're just gonna have to do this. We're gonna comment this code out and just leave that alone. And if you feel like getting a printout of it and modifying it differently towards the end, you can, but let's just do it for now.
Are you trying to fix the code?
Health. What is that?
I think he's trying to fix lecture R. Or lecture Romeo.
Let's see, semicolon, okay, yeah, I am a semicolon. Mistake, I think I have that. This is part of the stuff that's not necessary. saved output.txt. And why would that be? For string is equal to false, and we'll create false. Right. All right, now we're ready to go on. Okay. So what happened is I went and I started another function, and the other function has to be way above main. So we're going to do another one now. Perfect timing, since he went to the bathroom. Ooh, and I've had it going the whole time. This just isn't the time of day for the people who are watching this. I'll try to trim that out. Alrighty. So we need to write another function called read file. So scroll all the way up, and under using namespace std, bool read underscore file, parentheses, string, file name, into parentheses. Open brace, close brace. It's going to be like what we did down in main earlier. We're going to create an IF stream, input file stream. We're going to open it, and we're going to read all those numbers that were saved in it. All 10,000 of them. We may change that 10,000 to something a lot shorter, right, after we've proven it works. So IF string, input, parentheses, input.open, parentheses, file name, in parentheses, no quotes around file name. Now how do we check to see if it's good? If, what am I going to put here? Input dot what?
Good.
Yeah, good, parentheses, in parentheses. That's if I'm checking to see if it's good. If it's not good, I could do equals equals false, or I could put an exclamation mark in front of it. Either way. That's an exclamation mark and not a 1. So if it's not good, we're going to print an error message, pause, and return. So cout less than, quote, could not open input file, space end quote, less than input less than ENDL, semicolon. I'm not sure why it's underlining there on the word input. Oh, because that's wrong, right? Because that's not what our file name is. That's what our file name is. So change that word input to file name.
Am I missing anything?
And we're just here to here. You'll be able to catch up. All right. So we're going to pause. We really ought to use a better pausing mechanism than this. System, parentheses, quote, pause, end quote, in parentheses, semicolon, return a false, because we could not open the file. Now we can keep going. If it was good, great, right? Let me see how I did something. Yeah. Now we're going to read from our file using getLine. Or we could just read from the file using arrow instead. Let's do that. That's cooler. So what we need a string variable to hold our data. So string s, semicolon. And let's put a counter in so we can know how many lines of data we read. We don't really need this, but int counter equals 0. That's going to say how many lines we read. Now we need a while statement that's going to keep running as long as there is data. So while, parentheses, input greater than S, in parentheses, just like CIN greater than, instead we're doing input greater than. In that case, Cout less than S less than ENDL, semicolon. Oh, I don't know why I put two S's there. My keyboard repeated. So only one S there. And when the while loop is done, it's because the input failed. It ran out of data. So we could close the file and return. So let's see out one more message. Cout less than. Done reading input file space end quote less than file name less than ENDL. And we could pause if we wanted to, right? System parentheses quote pause end quote in parentheses and then return. True, because it worked. We might take that pause out. I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to take that pause out. The other one didn't have a pause at the end of it, so why should this one? I'm deleting that line.
Oh my goodness.
All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to have to modify main to call this function. So I don't want to scroll past this until everybody's got it typed in and at least it builds. So I'm going to choose build solution and see if I get any errors. If I do, they'll be over here in the error list. Looks like I lucked out. No errors on mine. But I'm not calling the function, so it's not going to read it. So we opened the file down in main, right, with that, and then we wrote out an error message if it didn't work. Let's make a little change. We're down in main now, so scroll down to main, and you see this else here? Delete the else, delete the open brace, back tab those three things and delete that brace. Why do we do that? Because if we're returning out of it, there's no choice for the rest of it to already be an else, right? Because return means stop the function, bail out. So there's no reason to have an else. We checked for an error condition. If there was an error condition, we handled it by displaying it and returning. Otherwise, we can continue on our merry way. Let's read our file now.
Oh, where?
What happened?
Which one did you take out? The L?
Here, let me show you. Yeah. Else, open curly brace, right under main. The first else. Delete it, the open brace and the close brace. And then back tab these guys, one. How am I back tabbing? I'm just moving my cursor here and hitting the delete key. Okay, so let's call read file now. Okay equals read underscore file, parentheses, and it needs to be the same file name. I could just copy it and paste it to make absolutely sure I get it right.
Just put out, is it, oh, it's output 2?
Yeah, I called it output 2 this time just to differentiate it from the first one. All right. What are we going to do next? We're going to check to see if it worked. So if, parentheses, not okay, in other words, exclamation mark okay, then it's a big deal. It's a problem. But it's doing the same thing that this is. So we can just copy these three lines and paste them down here, right? In fact, the whole thing looks real similar. I could copy everything from if okay down to that close curly brace and paste them here. But instead of saying could not write file, I'm going to say could not read file. And then I see some other stuff I might want to copy and paste. These 3 lines. So these 3 lines come from under the OK equals write file. I'm going to paste those here. And again, I'm going to change the word saved. I'm going to make this say data read from file.
Read from file.
And so it says data saved, hit enter to continue. And now it's reading in 10,000 numbers. That was a little excessive. I should have chosen something smaller. And then done reading from the file. The data was read from the file, hit enter to continue. Now it's going to do whatever we had done before, right?
So you don't need anything else?
That should do it.
Wow. Look at this.
What if we wanted to open our file in Notepad? We did that last time.
What went wrong?
It only takes a... So why don't we, after this return 0 could not read file, instead of saying data read from file, hit enter to continue, we're going to say hit enter to... Nah. We're not going to change that, but let's just open the file just for funsies anyways. So string space cmd command, or CMD's good because abbreviations are always great, right? String cmd equals quote notepad, I'll be right over there, space end quote.
That was nice.
Oh, how about we just do the whole thing? Notepad space output out. My keyboard always repeats. Put 2.txt semicolon, and then system parentheses cmd in parentheses. Make that say cmd dot c underscore str parentheses in parentheses. So that got a little bit wonky there, but let's run it and see if it works. All right, data was saved to the file, hit enter. It reads in 10,000. Remind me to change that 10,000 to something smaller.
Oh, man.
Hit enter. And then it pops open our data file. Just for funsies, just to see it.
Just for funsies?
Alrighty, so what is the homework going to be? The homework is going to be to modify any other application you have written to save its data from a file. Even if it's just one line, right? Any application that you've written, as well as using cout arrow, cout less n, you're going to also add some code to open a file and save that data to the file, and it'd be really nice if you use Notepad to open it, but that's not necessary. So I'm just going to add that as a comment, and then I'm going to wander around. Homework. Modify any of your previous homeworks to save the data to a file. I'm not going to even specify the name. You get to pick. It would be nice if the program then used Notepad to display that file. Don't have to do it. It's not in the book, right? So, but you've seen 2 examples of it now.
You accidentally...
I deleted a line. Smooth move. Alrighty. OF stream space output. That's what I deleted. You don't have to add that, right? Because you didn't delete it. That was my genius move. All right.
I see you're being sarcastic.
So that'll be the homework, is to modify any of your previous homeworks to save to the file. That makes sense, guys? You can make it as cool as you want. If you want to ask for the file name, if you want to then save your data and then open Notepad, that's cool. Or you could just customize it, right? I mean, force the file name to be output.txt or something. Whichever you want to do. I think that we're going to really call ourselves done now. We are done on this chapter, but I promised header files. Don't do this, okay, guys, because it probably might break your code, and I don't want you to have to fix it. But I'm going to take my write file. Oh, go ahead, guys. Go ahead and do this. Put your cursor here on bool read file, or write file, whichever's the top one, whatever's under using namespace. Highlight all this stuff down to the closing brace, but not including int main. Right?
Copy and paste.
And then cut it. Don't copy it. Cut it. And then go down to the very bottom and paste it. Now we've got a problem. It doesn't compile anymore. Well, why'd you do it? You broke it. Well, yeah, I did, but there's an easy fix.
Do you paste it after the last bracket?
Yeah, completely underneath main. Don't even include it as part of main, right? After system pause, closed brace.
Well, what do we do now?
So we got to fix it so that it'll compile. Watch, let's run it and we'll see the error list. The error list says read file not found. Well, the reason it's not found is like in Python, if you define your function after where it's called, it doesn't know what the function is. So scroll down to where you see read file and copy that line. And then go back up above main and paste it and put a semicolon at the end of it. This would actually go in a header file. So copy it, scroll up above main, paste it, and put a semicolon. Now we're going to do the same thing for write file, but write file syntax is so similar. Honestly, I'm just going to paste it a second time and change the word read to write, and we're good.
Oh wait, we can't do it from now.
And then put your semicolon. These are called prototypes. This is a prototype. What it means is it defines what the function looks like, but doesn't give the code. You do that if your functions are going to be stored somewhere else other than above main. Like if you put them in another file, or if you put them below main, you're going to need prototypes, and usually you stick prototypes inside header files. For now, we're just sticking them right here. Now it should compile again. So let's write why we have these prototypes. Since read underscore file and write underscore file
Wait a minute.
are located somewhere else than above main, we have to tell the compiler how the functions are defined. So you use the function header followed by a semicolon. Use the function definition followed by a semicolon. This is called a prototype. So anytime you put your functions below main other than above main, you're going to come and add prototypes, either in a header file or just right above main. All right, let's make a Dropbox. I'm going to have to cover the screen momentarily.